Us here with my legendary guest, Ann Hession, and we're going to get to her in just a moment. But for the hopefully few of you that don't know who I am, I'm Marla Press, founder of Speakers on Fire Academy. And my passion, and I mean passion, is to help you speak so people listen. And my company is Speakers on Fire because I want to get you even more fired up about what you do and then fire up your audience so they're excited to work with you. That's what it's all about: excitement, joy, and making a bigger impact. So that's what I help you do. And today I have with me Ann Hession. And hi, Ann. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to read your bio because it's so impressive. But you are legendary in some circles, so I hear. So I'm just saying, I am so happy and excited to talk with you today.
I'm just laughing because it's not like a normal thing, I think. But I've been called legendary 3 times today. I'm like, really? Okay, sure.
Hey, it must be a thing that I'm telling you, you are. You don't even have to know, but you are. So Ann is an energy healer and medical intuitive and a soulful sales expert. She helps healers and intuitives who have amazing gifts that change people's lives, but are allergic. And I love this metaphor, Ann, who are allergic to sales and marketing, keeping you out there from having a thriving business doing what you love. Ann created a 6-figure energy healing practice and has sold millions in programs and services. And she will help you confidently grow your business without ever feeling fake, pushy, or salesy. And this is amazing. It really, an energy healer and a sales expert, we don't normally see those in the same person. So tell us a little bit more about that.
It's not like unheard of, but it's not common.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's how that all. I mean, I've always been in the woo-woo. Like I've always been in that realm for decades. I've been interested in that kind of work and just personal growth work and energy and all of that stuff, right? And I've also always had interest in and often had my own business, but had limited success, right? And actually like supporting myself doing, I was actually a massage therapist for years. I was director of a wellness center, but there were some real limits. And like most people who are in that realms and coaches too, right? Like most are not making a living doing what they do, right? And what I've come to believe is that the single biggest reason that they aren't is that they don't know how to sell. And that is certainly where the turning point was for me, when I just finally had kind of a come to Jesus moment around like, it doesn't matter how good that I'm good at what I do. It doesn't matter that I have a good heart. It doesn't matter. It's like, if I can't sell it, it's not going to help anybody, including me. Right. And so I just had almost 20 years ago, I was like, I got to learn how to do this. And what I actually did was I went and got a sales job. So I was trying to make a living as a coach at the time, and I was failing, and I was like, not paying the bills, and it was failing, right? And I was like, I have to learn how to do this. And so I was like, basically my thought was, if I have to learn how to sell, I won't get paid to do it. I won't get paid to learn how to do
it. That's diving in. That's really diving in. Yeah.
Right. So I went and got a 100% commission only sales job. I was like, I'm just going to learn how to do this. And I did. And I did the training. Like I just threw myself in, and I started to realize there were a lot of things about sales that I liked, like helping people solve their problems and serving and really listening to them and like helping them get clear and helping them make good decisions. And then this is a years-long journey. I'm just kind of impressed. But then I went and I got another commission-only sale job that was also, it was kind of like, a bit higher intensity and all that stuff. And I just became really good at it. And along that way, I discovered that there were things about sales, like I said, that I loved, and things that I learned that I still use to this day. And there were also things about how sales is sometimes done and sometimes taught that did not resonate with me, that were not how I want to do business. And, along the way, I kind of developed my way of doing heart-centered, I like to call it soulful sales, right? That's really is coming from the heart. It's coming from relationship. And I found that that's really the only way to do it that works for people like healers and, intuitive people and everything. Because here's one way I like to explain it, actually. And any of you, if you're listening and you've done some sales training out there in the world, you might recognize this. Not everyone, but there's a lot of the way that sales is often taught I think it's this very outdated paradigm that's very male. It's very, I say it's kind of high testosterone, right? It's like always be closing and overcome objections. I mean, that's literally like a chapter in every sales book, overcome objections. Yeah. Every time I see that, I'm like, what are you, a bulldozer? Literally, it's like overcome them, not listen to them, address them, see if you can resolve them.
Right. That word has a lot of power, and it absolutely then guides people to go that direction where it's about power over or overcoming.
Exactly. And that's still out there in the sales world. So if you've ever done some sales training and then you tried it and it just didn't sit right, this is probably why. It is coming from that masculine energy. And when I say that, I want to be really clear. I love masculine energy. It's wonderful stuff. I have a lot of it myself.
Have to have it. Yeah, we have to have both.
But it doesn't work for very heart-centered kind of, mission-driven, soulful kind of people, male or female, as our way of inviting people to work with us, right? It just isn't a fit. And so how I do sales and have done millions in sales, literally, is coming from, it's more really authentic female energy, which is more about the relationship, right? So male energy is kind of about the transaction, and female energy is more about the connection and the relationship. So doing sales the way that I do it and teach other people to do it is about really putting the relationship as more important than the transaction.
I love that you're talking about the. Yeah. I just want to emphasize. There's so much to unpack there. You're saying so many wonderful things, but I love that you're bringing up the idea of the masculine and the feminine, because we don't hear that many people talking about that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trained in the art of feminine presence, which is now the art of feminine and the art of masculine presence, because there's an art to both.
Yeah,
we need balance,
and there's a place for both. And look, fundamentally, I'm going to say, if the transaction doesn't happen and they don't hire you, that's if it really wasn't they shouldn't have, right? You're not a fit for them. That's one thing. But it's the transaction is important, right? That's the sale happening is actually how you transform people's lives. But coming from making the transaction the most important thing, it just doesn't work for people like this, right? And focusing more on the relationship. And still, yes, we want to have a transaction, but people can tell the difference if you're making the relationship the most important thing. And even if they don't buy from you right then, you're who they'll come back to, right? Because when they're ready later, if that's the case for them, or you're who they'll send other people to because you were great with them and you really did focus on the relationship and you really did serve them. And that's a way of doing sales that isn't yucky and gross. And it works for healers in particular, which is who, the main people I'm here to make a difference with. So
absolutely. Yeah. I love this because it's so true. And people get so stuck on closing the deal and the transaction that they get attached to it emotionally.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck.
Yes. And then they feel, it's so many people, the last thing they want is to be pushy, but then they end up actually being pushy because they just don't know what to do. Right. Yeah. And, I one of the things that I like to explain is there's two basic reasons why most heart-centered, soulful people, healers and coaches suck at sales. Just to be honest. There's two basic things, right? And I talk about it as the inner game and the outer game, right? So the inner game is the mindset and the wounds and the fears and the self-worth issues and who am I to charge for this? And I'm not good enough. And all of those things that will come up, right? And that you have to work on that. You can't pretend that's not happening. You got to actually do as healers, we're doing the healing work and we're doing that clearing stuff, but you can't succeed on clearing and healing alone, you also have to be doing the outer game, which is actually having the conversations. It's learning the skills. It's actually learning the skills of sales and, eventually marketing too. And picking up that 700-pound phone, and having the conversation. You have, right? You have to do both. But if you do both, I like to explain it this way. If succeeding at what you love, think of it as like a stair, as a stairway, right? A little line down the middle. This side is like that inner game stuff. It's the healing work. It's the clearing. It's the mindset stuff. It's the stuff people like me, this like, oh, I can just hang out there all day. Like, I love it. Right. And then the other side is like skill building, taking action, right? Pushing yourself someday, like to go further. Right. So woo people like me, they're trying to go up the stairway just on one leg.
Yeah.
I'm just going to clear my way to success. You can like jump up one or two, but that's about it as far as you can go. Now, some other people that are like, maybe like, oh, mindset, that doesn't matter. I'm just going to tough it. I'm just going to be in action. I'm going to do it. They're trying to go up this way. That doesn't work either.
Yes.
Right?
You need both. Absolutely.
You need both. But if you do both, if you're like, you do some mindset work, you do some, like I say, clearing, because I'm a healer, we talk about it that way. That opens you up to like, you could, okay, now I can take some action that was like, it was maybe too scary before, or it was like, you couldn't even see it as a possibility. So then you take a step here, then you can take a step here. Right. And you take some action and your thing. And then guess what? It drives up a little more stuff. So then you do a little bit more over here, and that opens up where you can do more, and then you do more here. And when you do it this way, literally there's no limit. You can just keep climbing that stair and there's no limit to how many people you can help, how much money you can make, but you can't just go up one side of the staircase. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I love this. It's painting such a great picture, because we can all picture people going up on the stairs on one leg, and, being, so unbalanced.
Hopping upstairs on one foot.
Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. No, that's so funny. So, I mean, I love what you're talking about, the inner game and the outer game too, because a lot of what I teach speakers is you have to master your internal energy and your external energy, and they're not the same thing at all. No, but you really want to master both. So the internal is really the embodiment, and then the external is how you radiate your energy, or do you project it, or do you diffuse it, or do you shrink it, all those kinds of things. So I love that you're talking about both, because you really do need to master both. So I'm wondering, so you work mostly with healers. Mm-hmm. Is there any difference? Because I think a lot of people out there are allergic to sales, no matter what profession they're in. So are there certain differences for sales, for healers, and then other people, do you think?
Yes and no, right? I mean, many of my programs anyone can take them. And, so it'll usually be a lot of healers and maybe some, and I say healers, I mean, mostly like people who do some form of energy healing work. But a lot of the programs and workshops and stuff that I do, we have coaches, we have healers. I've had realtors, I've had artists there, so it can be a pretty broad range, but some of what I do is specifically just for healers. But in terms of like teaching around how to talk about what you do, it really is the same. It's not different for them in terms of like how to have the conversations. But there really is, sales really is a set of skills. And if you don't have, like, it doesn't matter how much clearing you do over here, if you don't have the set of the skills that the situation requires, which is knowing how to ask questions and how to really listen and how to help people through a decision process. That's really what sales is. If you don't have those skills, you won't be effective in selling what you do, despite how good you are at what you do, and despite, how you might have cleared a bunch of stuff over here. And that is the same for healers, for coaches, for anybody. Right. But a lot of people don't realize that sales really is just a set of skills. They kind of like, some people are good at that, some people aren't. And it's like, no, it's like, you learned how to ride a bike, and you learned how to do whatever it is that you do. You learned how to read and write, and you can learn sales too. You just want to learn this kind of sales. You want to learn the soulful kind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because, I think artists in particular, and healers perhaps, and even a lot of coaches, they're not they are a little different people than someone who has a brick and mortar business or someone who does something a little different. And I think it's even harder for them to embrace the sales process.
I think there's a lot of reasons for that, and one of them is if you're selling, someone else's product or program or whatever it is. Let's assume it's something you believe in, something you can feel good about selling. We'll just take that as a given. For a lot of people, that's a lot easier than selling them their own stuff, right? Because if it's your program or your coaching or your sessions with you, your healing work, and that's the thing you're selling, any self-worth issues, any self-doubt, any self-sabotage, any money issues, any stuff like that is like at least double the impact. Yes. Right? Because because now you're dealing with your skill and your ability to talk and sell it, but you're also dealing with the thing you're selling is you, right? Is your stuff. And so, and that it definitely is just as true for artists and coaches and energy healers and other things. So it just becomes, the stakes feel so much higher, right? Because you not only have to sell it, then you have to deliver. And so often that's the thing that holds me back. Like, what if I don't deliver? What if they're not happy, right, when they purchase it? And you don't feel the same way when you're selling some other thing. I mean, obviously, you still matters to you that you want people to be happy, but you're not going to be like, I failed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've even had teachers that say, oh, I've been teaching for years and I'm very comfortable speaking. But then when it comes to having to sell themselves, they are not effective at all. It's a whole different ballgame than information versus selling yourself. It's much more vulnerable and it's much more challenging to do. So I've worked with that and experienced that myself with my clients.
Yeah, it's a big difference. A really, really big difference in doing that. And that's, again, why you need to do that inner work, right? But you also need the skills, like sometimes I say, like, if you're in essentially a sales situation, someone is inquiring about what you do and they want to find out more, and you don't know what questions you ask. You haven't gotten those basic skills in place. That would be like walking out on a concert stage and sitting at the piano and you don't even know how to play chopsticks, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if you have even very high self-esteem. You don't have the skills this situation requires.
Yeah, you need both. Absolutely.
It's not going to go well.
Yeah, it's not going to go well. Yes, absolutely. So I'm curious. So you mentioned, you took this sales job and then you mentioned a couple things you love about sales, but I'm wondering if you could emphasize that a little bit more. What do you love about sales? Because so many people are allergic to sales.
Yeah. I love that it really is like, it's just an opportunity to make a difference for someone, right? Usually when there's, again, a sales situation, like someone's inquiring or someone, it's because they want something, right? Like something's not working. Sometimes it's more aspirational, like they literally, there's not necessarily a problem, there's just something they want. But most of the time, especially for coaches and energy healers and, things like, it's more like there's a problem, right? They're in pain, or their relationship is falling apart, or they're, struggling in their career, or they're not making enough money, or right, there's a problem, and that they are coming to you hoping you can help, right? And sales is that, it's kind of like this moment of truth kind of thing, right? Of like helping people. I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this. So when you're worried about sales, when you're allergic to sales, when you don't have the skills, it's actually all about you. Right. It's all about your self-doubt, trying to think of the right thing to say, can I deliver? Da, 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 da. When you know what you're doing, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yes.
And you're free to just be over there in their world and serving them and making it about them. And it's, instead of it trying to get a sale, it's actually an opportunity to serve people and actually take a stand for them.
Yes.
right?
I love this idea of it. It's about them. It's not
Yeah.
about us. And that's, I think, where a lot of people fail is, they worry so much about rejection and am I going to do it right and all of that. And then they're too much on themselves and they're not open and just curious
Yeah.
about how they can serve the other person.
Exactly. So that is one of the things that I like. It's like when I love a sales conversation. I look forward to a sales conversation because because I've done my homework. I've done with the magician analogy. I've done so many scales and arpeggios, right? That and that doesn't mean that someone might say something in a sales conversation that I'm a little like, I don't know what to say. Like that could still happen, but for the most part, I do know what to say and I know what to say, and I'm just being there with them, helping them come to a decision that will serve them. And I love that. Like, what's better than helping people create great decisions for themselves and be able to step it forward? And again, what I'm selling is like coaching and healing, right? So that's obviously about something that's going to totally enhance and maybe transform their life, and to be the person who is totally there with them, asking questions that will make a difference, that help them see things more clearly, and absolutely believing, 100% believing that they are worth it, and helping them realize that they are worth it and decide to make that investment in themselves. It's sacred to me. It's beautiful. So that's what I love about sales. It's about actually helping people take a stand for themselves and invest in themselves in something that's going to truly transform their lives.
I love that aspect of it because that is so true. You're helping people not just by the work you do, but you're helping them emotionally, because a lot of people come to us and they want something, but they haven't made a decision whether they really want it and what it's really going to do for them and how it could really change their life.
And are they worth it? Like, that's the thing that a lot of people are struggling with, is like they're scared to make that investment in themselves. And they could also be scared because I don't know if it'll work for me, and I don't, all of that. But a lot of time it's like, am I worth it? And that's one of the things I work with people around is pricing too. Like, a lot of people are really underpricing what they do. And, I'll confront them a little bit and saying, like, if you're a healer, right, you're an energy healer, and the work that you do, changes people's lives, because there's some amazing stuff that people do, saving lives in some cases. And you're like, charging like very, very little for it because of you might be your own struggles, but you're also literally signaling to those people that that's all they're worth too. And when I put it that way, they're kind of like a little mind blown, right? To see someone step up and like be like, yeah, I am worth this. Like, my life is worth this. Solving this problem is worth this. Getting out of pain is worth this. Freeing myself from my anxiety or whatever it is worth it. It's a beautiful thing. It just really is.
That is a beautiful thing. And to frame it that way too, that it's not just about getting a service, but it's really about getting off the fence, and it's about your self-worth. Because a lot of people, it's not that they don't trust us, right? It's that they don't trust themselves. And so,
they'll have the money, but they're not okay with spending it on themselves.
Yeah.
Not in every case. Sometimes it's also a challenge to come up with the money. I mean, there's all kinds of different situations, but very often it is that they're struggling to with their own worth. And then if you have the person who's selling, the coach or healer or whatever, is also struggling with their worth, that's what ends up happening, is basically nothing, right? Like neither one is like just taking a stand for what really matters here, which is changing people's lives.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so, so important. I love this. So before I tell people how they can get a hold of you and how they could work with you, is there anything else that you wanted to tell people right now?
Well, just in general, right? I really like that your work matters, right? What you do matters. And there's literally people who are waiting to hear from you. They just don't know that you're the one they're waiting to hear from. And we need to stop being like the best kept secret and be willing to like talk about what we do and just, put it out there and see who responds, and then take a stand for those people, and don't make it about you. It's about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Such pearls of wisdom. So how can people get a hold of you? I know you have something coming up That
we have a time sensitive thing, and people can reach out to me any time in general. But for any energy healers in particular who are listening, I have a time sensitive invitation for you. So I have coming up next week, Monday, May 20th through Wednesday, May 22nd. We have a live online 3-day event that is only exclusively for energy healers. That is not true for all of my programs, but it is true for this one, right? So this is only for energy healers. It's one of the things that makes it really magical, because the type of conversation that we can have with just energy healers there is really quite extraordinary. So it is called Souled, and that's spelled SOUL''D, the heart and soul of sales for healers. And at this event, like if you are an energy healer and you really want to be making a living doing what you're doing, and a good living at it, you want it next level, you want to make a bigger difference in the world, you know you're meant for more. And this piece of being able to like invite people to work with you and have them say, yes, here's my card. Right? If that's a place that you get stuck, you have to be here. Like, do not miss this event, right? This is all going to get transformed for you. You're going to leave knowing how to have those conversations, having actually practiced them, and be like, wow, this is actually great. This isn't scary. This isn't pushy. This isn't gross. This is beautiful. And you are going to leave this event knowing that you absolutely can succeed and create a thriving business as a healer. And I'm here to help you do it. So if that appeals to you, click on that link. You can get all the details about it. It's $97. I mean, it's crazy inexpensive to spend those 3 days with me and over 100 other energy healers, and transform your whole relationship to your business so you can make the difference you're here to make.
Yes, this sounds fabulous. And, you know, an energy healer, because you and I talked about this before too, doesn't have to be someone that's all they do, but it's part of what you do. And there's so many modalities out there.
Yes,
so you know, really think about whether this is you, because it very well could be. And for sure, if you identify as an energy healer, you don't want to miss this, because as you can tell from Ann, she has her perspective on this, her experience with this, and her soul-centeredness is amazing. And absolutely, the group itself, like you said, is going to be magic in itself. But what you're going to get and how your business is going to grow from this in 3 days is amazing. So I encourage everybody to copy this link down here. This is the link that you can sign up for her program, only $97 for 3 full days. This is amazing. So
it's a powerful program. It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Ann. I know that anybody listening, whether you're an energy healer or not, is going to get a ton from your perspective and all your wisdom about sales. And it is something that so many people are allergic to. And, you know, I help people speak so people listen.
That's another thing people are allergic to, is speaking. Right. And you get past that. Right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's so important that you're seen and that you're heard, not just that you talk, but that you are heard. And so this is going to be fabulous. Everybody sign up for that. And thank you so much for sharing this with all of us today. I really appreciate you. You are amazing and you're a legend.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.